So now that Bernie Sanders has established from the Iowa caucus that people will actually turn out and vote for him, this is not just excited college students going to rallies. They actually brought him within a couple of less than a percentage point of winning in Iowa. The attacks have begun. The attacks against his policies, the attacks against his political philosophy, and they're only going to become more common and more angry from here on out. But I got bad news for the people launching those attacks. This is not just Bernie Sanders, and it's not just a few Bernie bros or college students who agree with him. Turns out his ideas about what is actually necessary to fix the problems that we have politically and economically in America are incredibly popular positions. And so here's the question that was posed in a recent poll. In the next decade, a political revolution might be necessary to redistribute money from the wealthiest Americans to the middle class. Do you agree with this statement? And now let's look at some of the results. You see there overall 54% strongly or somewhat agree to 30% who strongly or somewhat disagree. You could have worded that to make it harder to agree with, but they specifically said a political revolution might be necessary to redistribute money. They framed it. If you were a Republican, this is exactly how you would want that worded. And even so, 54% agreed. That's overall. The numbers for independents are almost as good, and actually fewer disagree with it. 51% of independents, who I hear in presidential elections are important people to court. People who don't typically vote obviously support it even more. Even the Tea Party, when you use the conservative anti-socialist wording, still support it, 55 to 36. And seniors, those most conservative of Americans, are basically split on the matter.
38 to 43. They're the only category that isn't in favor of it.
Listed
outright.
right there. Now, Republicans are a little bit against it because they've been trained over the course of their entire lives to be against it, even if it would economically benefit them, but not Tea Party.
But even then, only a little bit. Okay, this is so important. So when you hear pundits on television tell you that this is a center-right country, understand they are categorically lying, okay? When they say Americans don't want to redistribute wealth, I just showed you the poll where they want to redistribute wealth, and they're not stuttering, 54 to 30.
They're willing to have a political revolution to get it. Not just if it's convenient, redistribute wealth.
Not just
turn over the whole thing.
Not just a little bit, a political revolution. So, yes, they want to redistribute the wealth, okay? Now, part of the reason for that is that they are right. In the past, I would have said, no, that's not the right way. First of all of it is meaningless because by definition, taxes redistributes the wealth. It redistributes my wealth to pay for wars, which I'm not in favor of. It redistributes my wealth to pay for tax subsidies for oil companies, which I'm not in favor of. Right? So all taxes do that. But getting past that point, in the past, I would have even been against higher taxes. But when I was growing up, taxes were 70%. That's how old I am, right? And so Ronald Reagan came in and lowered it. If you said to me higher than 70%, I would have said no. But in this day and age, the effective taxes have already been redistributed so much that the money got redistributed to the top. And I've shown you that in chart after chart, and Bernie Sanders talks about it in speech after speech. But the thing is, you don't need those charts or speeches because you already know it in your personal life. You know that your wages have been stagnant for longer than you can remember. And you know that the American economy is doing well. You know the stock market's doing well. You know Wall Street the Wall Street is doing amazing. And the reality is that feeling you have in your gut is right. They did redistribute the wealth already to the top. And it was to the tune of trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
They took your productivity and they rigged the rules so that they would gain from your productivity. Now, what you're saying in those polls is, I'd like that money back, right? And I'm not going to go back and get the trillions of dollars you already stole, right? But we're going to unrig the rules. And if it takes a revolution to do it, we're going to do a revolution. And why does it take a revolution? It takes a revolution because the system has been so corrupted that the powerful have legalized bribery, they buy all of our politicians, and hence we're going to need a revolt in a political sense to get a new system, which, by the way, would be called democracy, where our votes matter more than your money does in terms of how you buy politicians. So going forward, don't let anybody lie to you, okay? The American people are in favor of redistributing wealth to the middle class, and the way they want to do that is very clear, including the Tea Party.
Yeah. And you're going to hear those lies come in a couple of different forms, and some are easier to spot than others. I mean, you're going to see on every episode, every show on Fox News from here on out until the general election, oh, it's crazy, the idea of redistribution, the political revolution, things are doing so well. And that, I mean, it's easy for even a lib to sort of ignore that. But you're going to see editorials from people saying, well, you're still supporting Bernie Sanders. Isn't it time for us to rally around a candidate who can actually win? His rhetoric is just so extreme. Why not go for somebody who's going to, they can make things happen. They can get things done without any evidence actually provided.
But you know what?
It's just college students. Every college student is a big lib. Yeah, they're going to support Bernie Sanders. Let's grow up. Those are the attacks against this revolution that are harder to fend off, but you need to be aware that they're coming. They're already being published as we speak.
You know what, though? Maybe the media, which is 1,000% going to lie about this as they have for decades. And I've been talking about polling, and we're going to give you more specifics in a second about this for how many years on this show? Because I know, because I showed you the polls. I've proven it over and over again. The country is deeply, deeply progressive, right? Yeah. So, but maybe it doesn't matter that they're going to lie about it, because we've already won. So our side is 54, their side is 30. That's a 24-point lead. So go ahead, keep babbling about, oh, no, I do declare we don't need any political revolution. The system is totally fine. We don't need any change. Nothing radical like Bernie Sanders. Oh, you know what? You just might be helping him because people are also nauseous of you. Your propaganda on television is vomitous. Yeah. So give them the rest of the numbers here.
So let's look at some more specific groups broken down. Agreement with the statement was strongest amongst African Americans, 68-12, Hispanics, 65-15, Democrats, not particularly surprising, 68-17, and 18 to 29-year-olds, the youngest voters, 68-20. Support was weakest amongst Republicans, 36-51, not that weak, by the way, and seniors 38-43. So even in the groups where it is weakest, 1 out of 3 Republicans thinks we need, again, a political revolution to redistribute wealth. More than 1 out of 3 Republicans agree with that, regardless of what the media would have you believe. And then to a little bit more of Bernie Sanders' policy platform, let's go to this last chart. You're going to see there, do you think we should raise taxes on the wealthy? Not tricky wording. Literally, raise taxes on the wealthy, 73-21. Raise taxes on big corporations, 66-23. They're actually more in support of raising taxes on wealthy individuals than on corporations. So we have a little bit more work to do there. Single-payer health care, 55-28. I've been listening to the media. I've been listening to Hillary Clinton. I would not have believed that that would be the result. And free college, 59-31. Not 4 years of tuition free at a public college like Sanders is saying. Just literally the statement free college is winning. It's got almost twice as much support as the people who oppose it.
2 rock-solid conclusions out of this that are inarguable. First of all, again, I've been reading polls for 20 years. These are not little numbers. These are huge, giant leads like I've never seen before on any of these issues. I've told you for years and years, these issues poll well. The country's center-left, deeply progressive. I've never seen the country this progressive. These are monstrous numbers. So anyone who tells you Bernie Sanders is unelectable is either enormously ignorant, and a lot of them fall in that category. They don't know these poll numbers. There are people who just turned on a morning show, and the morning show told them he was unelectable. Well, that's what they know.
There's a guy from Goldman Sachs says he's extreme.
Right. Or they are lying to you on purpose. Those are your only 2 options, because those numbers say the guy who holds those positions is the most electable guy in the country. That you don't get any more electable than 73-21. You, as a politician, you cannot hold a position that you could reasonably argue should have more than 73% of the country behind it, right? And he is known as the candidate who is most in favor of that position that is enormously popular. He's based on these numbers, the most electable guy I have ever seen, okay? Yeah. Now, so that is a rock-solid conclusion. Second of all, if it wasn't for the establishment media against Bernie Sanders, this would be a no-brainer. This would be a cakewalk.
Everyone would already know this information.
Think about it. Imagine if the media actually came out and said, Bernie Sanders is obviously the most electable candidate because his position polls better than I have ever seen any candidate's position poll, which, by the way, is true. In my 20 years of covering politicians and politics, I've never seen any candidate's positions poll as well as this. Imagine if they all said, well, it's obvious. It's obvious. Bernie Sanders is polling the best. Bernie Sanders is the most electable. Look at Bernie. It's obvious. Nearly 3/4 of Americans want to raise taxes on the rich. It's obvious. 2/3 of Americans want to, come on, raise taxes on corporations already. The American people demand it. If the media said that, this race would already be over.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders is doing this well, even though the propaganda arm of the establishment media, okay, is fighting full force against these ideas. Yeah. So understand who the enemy is. The media in this case, television media, is not neutral. They are the enemy, okay? They are the enemy of not me, you. You're the one saying you want to raise taxes on the rich 73 to 21. You're the one saying you want to raise taxes on corporations at 66%. You're the one who says at 59% I want free college education for my kids. I want them to have equality of opportunity. Who's stopping it? The media. The establishment media is saying, no, I don't want your kids to get equality of opportunity. I don't want my taxes to go up. We're all incredibly rich on TV. I don't want my taxes to go up. I hate Bernie Sanders. He's dangerous. He's radical. Don't vote for him. So these guys on television, turn them off, turn them off, turn them off, okay? All they are, they're better propaganda than Pravda. Because at least with Pravda, you knew it was run by the government.
Yeah.
These guys are run by the establishment. They just don't tell you.
They're run by the people who own the government.